saith the Lord. So saith the Lord.
Welcome back to Mages and Murderdads, the best show dedicated to the Baldur's Gate franchise and beyond. And that last part is more and more important every day that goes by. I'm Cameron, and I play Chickelvar the Sorcerer.
I'm Danny, and I played Balthazar the Barbarian.
Oh my god. This is episode 43, and in this episode, we're wrapping up.
It's the wrap-up episode.
The wrap-up.
It's all here.
This is our final mixtape before dissolving as a band. We're all going to go our own way.
Oh, man.
The RZA's going to do his thing now.
And it'll be like another decade before we do the House of Flying Daggers.
Oh, gosh. Well, you know, if you haven't been paying attention, if this is for some reason your very first episode,
Welcome.
you made a bad choice.
Have you?
Well, welcome. A, welcome. But B, you're not going to have a lot of context for what's going on here, you know?
It's like starting the Odyssey when Bilbo Baggins comes home and reclaims the crown.
Yeah. I mean, Bilbo has been at the wall for, gosh, I don't know what, 2 books, something like that. And then
there was that book where they skipped him entirely, like he wasn't even featured in one book because...
Well, it's all about the Zerg and, no one cares about it, right? Like, everyone hates it. But yes, he finally comes back to the necropolis and picks up his crown. And he wins, I guess. I don't know. I mean, what I really love about the end of that book is when Bilbo and Elminster are looking at each other, and everyone says, "Look, you can see that there's a little bit of there's mist coming out of Bilbo's mouth, but there's none coming out of Elminster's mouth."
And you're
like,
thinking,
oh.
Is Bilbo the Lich King now?
Exactly. Oh man, it's awesome.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's a complicated backstory, I guess. But we finished the entirety of the Baldur's Gate franchise.
That was it. That was the one.
The whole that's the one.
That's it. And we can link back to that interview with Beamdog, developer, I believe, not designer, correct?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's a small enough operation where that's all happen at once. But yeah, Phil Daigle, and you can hear his spoiler alert. You can hear his very cryptic answers. They're definitely. I don't know if we're gonna get another one of these. Yeah, it did not seem to be in his answer when we asked him about it. He did not seem to be very, very positive about additional Baldur's Gates. Although I will say this right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm making a promise that both of us have to keep, even if one of us doesn't want to. Even if one of us dies. If Beamdog or any other entity were to release, out of the blue, a surprise, a Baldur's Gate game, even if we're like a third of the way through Pillars of Eternity, the next episode of Mages and Murderdads will begin with that next installment. Oh, yeah, okay. I'm down, I guess. I'll commit. Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen. Well, that's the beauty of it. We don't know. I don't think. Yeah, you get to talk a big game, and it never has to play out. You think it'll be like a chickens coming home to roost scenario? I'm going to spend the next 4 years of my life talking shit on the impossibility of a new Baldur's Gate game. Mm-hmm. I mean, that could happen, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not an expert. So what's this episode all about, Danny? So we solicited some questions from people about our experience doing this very deeply strange and weird thing, which is making a show, not a let's play, a show about playing about playing this series of games and about talking about them. And people asked us questions. Hey, now that you've done this, what do you think about such and such? And we're here with the such and such. Yeah, so we got questions from people on YouTube that were in the comment left in the comments of the last episode. We got some from Reddit. We got some from our Discord, which you should go join if you have not done so already. Any of that stuff. And so we're just going to kind of talk. This is just a talky episode. You know, we like to do at least one episode at the end of every season or every game where we just kind of, you know, chill out and talk about the thing and
Decompress.
Decompress. Exactly.
Imagine a world where we're just playing Planescape Torment right now. It's too soon.
I wouldn't have been able to do it, like time-wise. I've been pretty busy of late. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't have been able to. So thankfully we've got this decompression episode. I will say though that there's been some questions in the fan community about what we're doing next, and I think we said it pretty clearly at the end of the last episode, but just to reiterate, we're going straight into Planescape Torment.
Kind of a gear shift, right?
A little bit of a gear shift, yeah. It'll be a change. Mostly because Baldur's Gate demands you do some fighting. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to get through Baldur's Gate without doing a fight. You can get through Planescape Torment basically without fighting.
Now, before we started Baldur's Gate, we kind of sat down and had like a loose conversation about the characters we were going to create so that we didn't overlap too much. Are we going to have that conversation with Planescape?
I think we are, yeah.
Okay.
And as someone asked, I think on the Reddit thread about the last episode, we're going to have a conversation about like who gets what NPCs and if we want to use NPCs. I historically have never used NPCs. I've played Planescape Torment 2 times. I've beaten it twice. I did not use NPCs either time.
Interesting, okay.
Because I think I had been told that you didn't need to. And it probably would have made my life a lot easier. But I didn't. And there's not very many. I mean, they're kind of much bigger characters. They've got much more extensive backstories. They have kind of not quite the loyalty quests of Baldur's Gate, but just more intensive narrative backstory and implementation of that story in the world. So yeah, we'll talk about it.
Good. Well, let's get into this. Let's get into some of the questions. You want to take it from the top here?
Yeah, let's do this. So we got I think a really good question here. We've got, this is not a ranking. I just want to be clear. This is not a ranking of good questions to bad questions.
It might be chronological, actually.
It is in fact chronological of where I got them and how I found them. So we are not privileging any questions here. So this is from Reese W. From YouTube. And Reese says, what qualities do you think that modern RPGs could learn from the Baldur's Gate series? Danny, you take it away.
What qualities do you think that modern RPGs... So when I want to define some terms here. So modern RPGs, we're looking at, I guess like BioShock. No, not BioShock. Maybe...
Mass Effect, you mean?
Mass Effect. That's what I was thinking of. Like the new Mass Effects... Maybe Fallout. Would you categorize Fallout 4?
Sure.
As like a modern RPG?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's interesting, what you're pointing out is that, you know, when Edge Magazine did their, I think, 100 best RPGs of all time or something like that.
Yeah.
Toward the beginning of this year, they put Horizon Zero Dawn on there.
Really?
Yeah. So I think that question is a lot, RPG, the genre tag of RPG is a lot bigger than it was, in 1998.
Correct. And Witcher 3, probably going to be like in the conversation. I think that there is a tendency in this modern RPG, right, to design the game in a way where it accommodates I'm kind of having a brain fart here, but this term that we use, emergent gameplay, right? To accommodate for emergent gameplay. In The Witcher 3, you're like, when you find out that the guy who asked you, oh, could you see about my friends? They like ran into the swamp over there. And when you kind of like look at the mystery and figure out, oh, he was the one that killed them, right? When you confront him, the way that entire confrontation like goes down is utterly dependent on are you mounted or not, right? Like, what side of him are you on when you initiate the conversation? That's going to like change the way he runs away, right? The game is built so you can have a satisfying narrative experience that's like challenging and balanced in that kind of emergent way.
Yeah,
Right?
like a dog, like a pack of wild dogs could show up in the middle of your fight.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
they got to fight a bunch of dogs. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think I kind of liked the idea that in Baldur's Gate, because it didn't anticipate every contingency, it was possible, especially and I'm speaking more about the early part of the franchise, where the player could just break encounters. Like they could take these same kind of like ideas of, oh, if you like did it this one certain way, it would be very different. But whereas modern RPGs, that very different is still like balanced and still like somewhere around the same difficulty level, and it like kind of makes and still like makes sense for that period of the game. In Baldur's Gate, you could do it, and it's just like the game's like, well, you got us. No, that's you're too clever for us. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's a way that contemporary RPGs are very good at controlling the ceiling of where a player can be in an encounter, whereas Baldur's Gate, by its very nature, cannot do that. Short of some stuff like locking narrative content behind stuff like the returning the book to or getting Candlekeep again, right? Or giving the 20,000 gold to the Thieves Guild, right? That kind of gating. Other than that, it's like, I mean, we talk about open world games, but Baldur's Gate is like legit. You know what I mean? Like you can power through it and do that kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I think that I think I agree that to some degree it is a more fulfilling experience because it's just kind of like, here are a bunch of encounters we put into the world. They're peppered everywhere. You can be very high level and run into these things and stomp through them. You can be very low level and run through these things and get destroyed by them. And like that, like ogres live here, and like that's just where the ogres are, right? And I think that some, that's not to say that other games aren't doing that, but kind of famously Fallout 3 doing the level
Death
scaling.
claws.
Yeah, well, just like level scaling around player level, period. And then Oblivion also having done the same stuff, and then The Witcher does that as well, right? There might be some variants of challenge, but it's not quite naturalistic. It's not the Gygaxian model that we talk about. I think that contemporary RPGs...
and like in terms of enjoyability, I'm not sure how much that actually gets you, right?
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Yeah,
I think it curates a certain type of experience, but I feel like the question that remains unexamined is that curated experience actually more quote unquote fun for the player?
I think it is.
Really?
I mean, maybe not for us, but I think like statistically, absolutely, right? Like the idea is that you as a player are just like a little, like there's enough challenge to keep you invested, but not too much challenge to push you out of the experience. And I mean, too much challenge that pushes you out of the experience was the whole end of the game for me. I was just like, well, screw it. I'm over it, right? I'd rather use console commands than smash my face up against this. So I think there's some truth. Like, there's a reason game design has trended in this direction. I don't know if it's all been good. I think there's some stuff has been lost there, I think.
I don't know. There's just a certain inorganic feel when you're playing Skyrim, and when you walk into an unexplored area, it is going to be exactly level appropriate.
Yes, sure. Yeah, I agree. I think you lose something.
Yeah.
But what do you gain, right? And what you gain is like more good experiences.
What you gain is less players bouncing off your product and more players buying the microtransactions. Getting the horse armor.
Gotta get that horse armor. I mean, yeah, kind of, right?
What's the next question from YouTube there?
Now that you beat all this is Jim K01 from YouTube says, now that you beat all the bosses. This is not their inflection. This is me reading the question.
Yeah, I want to see your give me that inflection that you were going with.
Now that you beat all the bosses, which boss fight was the most enjoyable in the series? What do you think?
I'm looking it up on. I'm not. This isn't an. This entire. God, wouldn't that be the deepest cut if this whole Baldur's Gate show was just one big advertisement for sorcerers.net? Wouldn't that be the damnedest thing?
It'd be pretty good. It'd be pretty solid.
Yeah, I'm just looking it up on
Sorcerers.net,
sorcerers.net, the name of this one person, but it's going to be in Baldur's Gate 1, I think.
I think so, too. I think that, we've talked a lot about the kind of sweet spot that happens around there. I don't know if it is a boss fight, but the set of encounters... Here, I'll go ahead and say mine while you're looking.
Yeah, go.
The set of encounters around the attacking of... Dragonspear Castle in Siege of Dragonspear. Like, you're going in and wandering around and taking fights strategically and all that stuff. I like that the most. That's my favorite. It's not a boss fight, I guess, but that's my favorite set of encounters.
That's interesting.
If I had to choose a straight-up boss fight, I think it might be Tomoko, which is like a sub-boss, I guess.
Tomoko was in front of the Temple of Baal.
Yes, in Baldur's Gate 1.
And there was kind of this narrative part right before it, basically.
Yeah, where she was like, "Look, you're not killing my dude." And I said, "Excuse me, ma'am. I'm here to kill your dude."
Mm-hmm. Excuse me. Am I being detained?
She was being detained, yeah.
Yeah, do you remember the name of the tiefling lieutenant in Siege of Dragonspear?
Are you talking about Sespinar?
Nope, that's like an imp.
Oh. No, I don't. I don't. Even when was it? When did this happen?
Siege of Dragonspear. It was Kalar Argent's right-hand woman, and we had to face her. The protagonist had to face her one-on-one when we sieged Dragonspear.
I do remember that.
She had a whole little adventuring party, and it like teleported us a short distance away into the tents.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to, you had to like one-on-one her basically.
Mm-hmm. You could challenge her.
Yeah, and was it the case that you could choose which party member challenged her? Because I think you just had Jaheira summon a fire elemental.
I'm pretty sure I did do it that way. I don't exactly remember how that worked out, but yeah, I do. I can visually see in my mind's eye what you're talking about. But that's your favorite one.
No, that's my second favorite one. I thought that you were talking about that when you were talking about the Siege of Dragonspear.
No, just that whole encounter. I really. Oh,
so it's not like it's kind of a set piece fight.
Yeah.
I think my favorite boss fight might be when you're getting to the bottom of the Iron Crisis, and you go to the and you just go down into the mines, and there's just that caster there. Malahi. Yeah. That's just like good, old-fashioned, very hyper low-level, like we're casting web. Mm-hmm. Right? I just, and it's like a fight that, it's kind of the first fight that the game throws at you where the space everything feels very intentional. You walk into that cave, and skeletons spawn behind you. It's like a very cramped area, like intentionally so. You're kind of trapped. Your backline is compromised. And so you like 99% of the time, if you're just playing with a party and not like a murder machine half-orc solo, you have to reload and like really consider, okay, I need to have one frontliner in the back here to like handle these skeletons. I just really like that fight.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And you can be cheesy with it too if you want, right? Like it's possible. You can send one person in there and see if you can like bottleneck them. There's all these considerations.
Yeah, and like can't get it out today. Kobolds come in the back too, right? And they've got like bows, and so you have to like kind of strategically stay on the inside of that little like cavern thing. Now, I think it's a good fight.
Was that the? Is this the same fight where the person had an invincibility orb?
No.
Yeah, I think that's later.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
But yeah, I think that might be my favorite fight. It's rough that happens within like 5 hours of starting this game.
Well, it could, or it could be 25 hours.
Or it could be 25 hours, you're right.
It's the beauty of Baldur's Gate for you.
Truly. But yeah, it doesn't... I don't think anything... Despite the fact that all of the boss fights in Throne of Ball are way more intricate, I'm not really on that jam.
Yeah. I can't think of one that I enjoyed more for sure.
Mm-hmm. What about the one where it was all the statues?
I think that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
But this is favorite, you know?
Yeah. Definitely no dragon fight for you.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Dragons are bad. I don't know if you know this, but dragons are aggressively bad in this video game. I think, personally.
Mm-hmm. No, I hear you on that. Mary on the Discord asks, around what point do you think you stopped enjoying the game? And to you in particular, was there ever a point for you where the combat didn't feel like a slog? And I think when Mary says to you in particular, she's referring specifically to Kunzelman there. Because I think for me, the fights were fine until the last two.
For me, the fights were not fine until the last two. For me, the fights were totally cool until about 3/4 of the way through Baldur's Gate 2.
Until time stop?
Kind of until time stop. Basically until we got to the Underdark.
Mm-hmm.
When, trash mobs were having me occasionally reload because I was having to, because it's not really time stop that's the problem, for me at least. The problem is
I was just saying it as like an arbitrary point in time, because about 3/4 of the way is around when that kind of happens.
Yeah, but even that's not the issue for me. For me, the issue is where a confusion spell will take out your frontliner, and then they will annihilate a caster in 2 hits. Mm-hmm. That kind of thing, which is
what
a unique
what we
party-based
call
problem.
Save or suck.
Yes.
Or save or die.
Yeah, save or your party wrecks itself.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I think because I like these games. I don't know what the best way to put it. I like when a game gives you the shortest possible distance between your intention and the application of what you intend.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I would like this character to attack this enemy, and then that occurs. Okay? And then I like the idea of rolling dice or whatever to determine if that's successful or not. I'm not critical of that at all. But the more levels of complexity that you give me that have to do with taking away my control. So this is the reason I don't like Khalid, right? All the way back when I got rid of Khalid in my party because he kept running away.
Morale checks.
Morale checks, right? I think that is an unnecessary moment of friction that is introduced that I don't think adds anything to the game. And I can tolerate one axis of that happening, right? So if confusion is a mechanic and that just happens, okay, fine, whatever. But by its very nature, right? Second edition Dungeons and Dragons adds confusion, dire charm, fear, right? Which are all related to one another, but are not all the same axis.
Yeah.
Those things could all be happening either one after another, or I guess not simultaneously, or maze, or imprisonment, or sleep, right? This proliferation.
It's basically 2/3 of spells. There are spells that deal damage, and then there are spells that do the other things that take away agency.
Yes. And I really appreciate, right, I play D&D. I'm an avid tabletop gamer. I enjoy tabletop experiences. I like those spells in those games because for the most part, they are not combat useful spells. I mean, they are, right? But the true interesting stuff that happens with a sleep spell, for instance, has to do with when you gotta sneak out of an inn and you make everyone go to sleep so you can run out, right? Something like that. Yeah, I just don't. So that's it. I say all of that to say that the axes of complexity of adding distance between me and what I intend to do, when that reaches a certain threshold, I'm less interested in playing the game. Which is why I guess why I think that dragon fights are so frustrating in this game is that
Wing
I feel
buffet,
I know
fear, morale checks.
Yes. dragon fear, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And like that's not a complaint about the like I know what I'm getting into. I know that is in this game. This is not a like I'm not whining about the game experience, but I have like a game design understanding of what is happening here, and I just would not design a game this way, and I don't enjoy a game when it happens this way. You know what I mean?
And this is, I think it's kind of a different, because I was thinking about our experiences streaming Darkest Dungeon, for example. Mm-hmm. And there would sometimes be situations where one of the characters would get to stress level 100, and they would kind of like break, and their resolve would be tested, and they would go into, you know, some kind of mania, right? Mm-hmm. And occasionally, when they're in this kind of state, you would tell them to do something, and they would refuse to do it, right? And there's something about the way that game is made where that is nowhere near as frustrating as is Baldur's Gate.
Well, I think it has to do with like this kind of axis idea that I'm proposing, right? Like ultimately in that game there is a finite set of things that can happen, and like you're saying, there's a triggering event that then either causes a positive or a negative thing to happen there, right?
I think it's almost like you feel like, well, this is the result of a many choices I have made. Like I can go back over the last 15 minutes and like I know why this happened. Whereas in D&D, it's this real-time thing, and it's like, what happened was a D20 did not roll well.
Well, it's also, too, that, like, when they hit the stress, you know, so we're talking very specifically about the stress mechanic in Darkest Dungeon, right? Mm-hmm. And when they hit stress level 100, this event, this triggering event that either causes, like, a positive or negative trait, it happens. But it won't happen next turn. And it won't happen the next turn after that, right? Like, there is a ceiling, it happens one time, and it has an ongoing effect, which is fine, but it's not like, you know, my character is confused, and then next turn they're going to be imprisoned, and then next turn, you see what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
There's something about the pile-on of D&D that I just find, I find it not bad, I find it exhausting.
Yeah. That is super fair. You want to take our first question from Reddit here?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, this is just a general one here that I think is interesting. Do we think the Mage Warrior split will still be in place for Planescape Torment? And that's from Amish and Proud on Reddit.
So I've got a couple ideas about. I think that though our characters worked. Like the split of characters we had for this for the Baldur's Gate series worked really well, and I would like to emulate that in future installments where we do other games. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily know if it was if it was like a Mage Warrior class split that made it work. I think it was more approaches to things, right? Mm-hmm. So I could certainly see a situation where one of us played a very straightforward and honest cleric, and the other played like a devious thief, right? Mm-hmm. Or even one of us played a noble and selfless paladin, and the other played kind of a rapscallion ranger, right? I think that the attitude, like, there's some mechanical difference, yes. I don't know if it's necessary that one person's always a mage. I don't know. That's just kind of my thoughts on it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's right. I think that I think that as long as we are exploring a significant, my concern, the reason I like the idea of having kind of vastly different characters mechanically is that it allows us to really like work through the game space.
Yeah.
And, you know, people who are listening, feel free to comment and let us know. But my feeling is that people really do like both the ideologically different ways of solving encounters, right? Mm-hmm. So where you will just like straight up kill people if they're telling you what to do. But also that I, you know, through Baldur's Gate 1, I could just summon a bunch of monsters like all the time.
Yeah.
To help grind through things, right? There's a possibility space, right, within the game that you are accessing that I can't access, and then vice versa.
No, I think mutually, like some aspects of the game's mechanics being mutually exclusive is important. I think we should try to shoot for that.
Yeah, I think we can. The Planescape Torment is interesting in that, A, it's a lot more narrative heavy, so there's a little bit less, kind of carving out your own space, but you're basically like determining your alignment. And if I remember correctly, it kind of, based on your decisions, it kind of flips on the fly, and that has all kinds of implications for the things you can say to people and the way you can interact with them and all kinds of stuff like that. So I think it'll be a really robust game for doing that kind of thing. And you've never played it at all before, right?
At all, yeah. In playing it through with the new enhanced edition will be my first experience.
Great. Yeah, it's also about like putting skill points and flipping different classes.
Flipping houses, purchasing real estate, and then
it's you and your little flying skull, and you have 30 minutes to go inside of a house and determine everything that's wrong with it, and then reinvigorate it for the next person on down the line. It's incredibly boring, but also the dark narrative competitor to The Sims.
I'm really excited about it.
Me too. I've got a little bit of info here in the middle of our Q&A.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, nearly skipped it.
So I don't remember if I said it at the end of the last Mages and Murderdads episode or in our Patreon podcast, the Range Touch Patreon podcast for January, February. Anyway, whatever. For this month, I said I would read the Baldur's Gate novelization, and if you remember all the way back, when we talked to Phil Daigle from Beamdog, he said that it was quote unquote infamous. He said it was an infamous novelization, and I thought that was very interesting. And I remembered having read them way back, like I would say when I was probably like 11 or 12.
I took infamous to mean, it is just not faithful to events that happened in the game.
Well, that's true.
Okay.
That is way true.
Okay.
Okay, but so it's Baldur's Gate. It is an official Forgotten Realms novel, and it is written by a guy named Philip Athans, or Athans, I don't know how you say his name, who I kind of looked up a little bit. It appears he was a TSR editor in the 90s, so he was like editing modules and source books and stuff like that. And I made it, let me tell you. Like I said before, I've been a little bit compressed on time, but I will say that this was not a priority in my life. Reading this book, especially after I read the first couple chapters, it has 246 pages. I read 85 of them.
Wow.
I got to chapter 12.
Okay. Short chapters, huh?
Yeah. Gracefully short. Beautifully short chapters. And I would encourage anyone to go and read it. Maybe I'll finish it and I'll make it a Patreon exclusive like thing where I just talk about it. That might be fun. And I'll finish reading. I've bought all of them.
Wait, there's more than one?
Oh, there's one for every game. Yeah, there's Baldur's Gate 2 and then one for Throne of Ball. And each of them are written by a different person, I believe, though.
Oh, Phil Daigle's got to get on, getting Cormac McCarthy to write Siege of Dragonspear.
Oh, we need to. Well, I'll follow up. I'll send him a tweet.
Who, Cormac McCarthy or Phil?
Both of them.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got Cormac's private account. Of course.
Gotcha.
He's got an After Dark account.
Yeah, well known for being very online.
Yeah, the most online human being. But anyway, this is all to say that, good Lord, this book is super bizarre. The main character's name is Abdel. And Abdel, I'm not even kidding, is just Balthazar.
Really?
He's straight up just Balthazar, yeah. This book does some weird stuff with the first game's timeline, where it basically says, well, Abdel grew up in Candlekeep and then went and was a mercenary on the Sword Coast for a little while, and then he comes back and then he meets up with his father, and then the game starts. It kind of follows the game after that. But he has you've got some combat experience, basically. Which is, fair, I guess. It doesn't really matter. But, yeah, he is just straight up, he is full of rage. And he fights and murders people all the time. When he goes to, so he meets Zarn Montaron first, as one might. Immelwyn does not figure into this book at all, as far as I can tell.
Dang.
Yeah, and or at least as far as I read. And so he meets Tsar and Montaron, and they go to the Friendly Arms Inn because he has, the little note from Gorian's corpse. And he goes there and he just straight up kills somebody there. Like a tavern patron. He just murders them because he's angry.
And what's the author's name again?
Philip Athens.
So I have to imagine Philip is just writing his playthrough.
I think that this book was probably written, and I don't, I would love to hear from someone who knows more about this than I do, but I bet that this was written out of, like, script notes or something before the game was finished being developed. That's my feeling, reading the book. You know what I mean? That they had to hit this target early so it could come out with the game. But yeah, he's just, like, murdering people. Khalid accuses him of being like a Zhentarim or like an Iron Throne agent, basically, in Nashkel, and he just kills Khalid.
The protagonist does?
The protagonist kills Khalid. And there's a very uncomfortable, like, when they meet Khalid and Jaheira, Abdel, the protagonist, immediately starts sexually fixating on Jaheira, who is married to Khalid, and the book is continually talking about that. This, like, his, like, inability to deal with that, and so then he, of course, murders her husband, and then they get in an argument, and she, like, comes into his bedroom at night, and he punches her in the face because he's like because he's like surprised by her being there. It's bizarre. It is a truly bizarre book. Not to monologue about it, but. But it is very weird.
I think you've been very generous with your adjectives here.
I legitimately mean bizarre. like I just don't have any words to describe it beyond that. Like, it's weird. Tsar and Montaron get tortured to death, like gruesomely tortured to death in an off-camera. It's not off-camera, but it's like away from the protagonist scene. Saravok, like, cuts both of Tsar's legs off in front of Montaron. I will say this, it is bizarre and it is cruel. There's a level of cruelty in this book that I don't feel belongs in, like, high fantasy sword and sorcery novels.
This is some real adapted for a Quentin Tarantino screenplay stuff happening in this
It kind of feels that way. It almost feels like an exploitation style novel, like the exploitation version of Baldur's Gate.
Interesting.
It's really weird. I don't know if I can recommend it. Even as an experience. And that's just the first 80-something pages, right? That's the first 85 pages.
That's what you were able to get through.
Yeah, I was reading kind of slowly, and I've just had a very compressed week. But yeah, I think I'll probably finish it and read the other two, and then I'll do, like, a thing on the Range Touch Patreon behind the paywall. So if you're very interested in hearing more about it in, like, a month, get on our Patreon, subscribe at $5, and you'll get that.
So,
yep.
Should there be more Elminster cameos? This is asked by Uanova on the Discord.
Yes.
And so this is basically, is there going to be an Elminster minute now that we've passed the Baldur's Gate franchise?
Oh, I don't think that's the question. I think the question is, would Baldur's Gate as a video game be better if there were more Elminster cameos?
Oh, interesting. So this is, should there be more Elminster cameos in this franchise?
I believe that is the question being asked. That's how I read that question.
I would have imagined that would have been phrased, should there have been more Elminster cameos? Should there be implies like the present tense, like, and that's why I assumed our show.
Well, maybe there's going to be more Elminster minutes. You have to stay tuned to find out.
Sure.
And B, yeah, I think there should be. I mean, there's like whole games where we don't hear from Elminster.
Yeah,
he's one of the most powerful wizards in the whole damn world.
I think that in Baldur's Gate 2, there should have been an opportunity to, like, confront Elminster and fight him. And I think that you should have lost every time. He would just, like, do contingency 5 time stops. But I think that you should have been able to avoid that and then just kill him in his sleep.
I mean, I don't know. Like, since this game is, well, I'll say this. it seems like when they were making this game, they wanted it to be, in some sense, canonical.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and it's like a couple years behind the timeline where the timeline was when these games were released, if that makes sense. Like, it's already a historical game, so there's a lot of playground room to play with as long as the end state is the same.
Yeah.
But I think you should be able to fight and kill Elminster and throw
Yeah.
a ball. Like, come on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my feeling on it.
That's our official Elminster position.
You should always be able to kill Elminster.
Elminster should be eminently killable.
Mm-hmm. So we got 2 questions from Modality
Mm-hmm.
in the Discord. Number 1, asking me what my favorite spell is in the game. Parentheses, doesn't have to be good, just favorite. And asking you, what's your favorite weapon in the game?
Okay, I've got mine. Easy.
What's yours?
Celestial Fury.
Give us the 2-second reminder.
Celestial Fury, Katana, you can get very early in Baldur's Gate 2, and it has a chance on hit that it just stuns the enemy.
Forever, right?
It's until they die, until they're chopped to death by a katana. Yeah.
But no, I mean, like, that was still working for me, at least, in the end of Throne of Ball.
Yeah, it was still, it could still trigger.
Mm-hmm. It was good. I also like that weapon a lot.
Mm-hmm. So that's definitely my favorite. Fun.
I think it's Melf's Minute Meteors still.
Just the idea of... Yeah, tell me what that is again.
Well, it summons up, I think, 10 little projectiles in your hands, and they're little bitty fireballs, and you throw them at people. It was a real playmaker early in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was a very powerful spell for me. And they never became completely useless. And they're just cool.
So give me your best. You're in a D&D campaign, and the DM has asked you, look, it's not enough for you to say, I cast Melf's Minute Meteors. I want you to have, like, a good description of, like, what that looks like, so that the party members know what you're doing. What is your best, like, kind of 30-second description of casting that spell? What does it look like? What do the party members see?
Ticklevar opens his right palm. With his left hand, he sprinkles a little bit of gunpowder into his palm and holds his left hand over his right palm and begins doing all kinds of, like hand wiggles with both hands. And then in his palm appears a tiny dancing little gremlin-looking guy who's made of fire, like kind of out of a Miyazaki film. That kind of looking guy, like a Howl's Moving Castle little fire fella, and he's dancing there. And then Ticklevar holds him up, and he jumps, and then he flies towards an enemy, and he smashes into him and explodes. And then as soon as he jumps out of his hand, another little guy appears there out of the gunpowder that's in his hand, or the saltpeter, whatever we want to say. And then that happens 10 times.
I like the reflavoring. That's fun.
It's all good. It's it's a good spell.
Balthazar hits the imp with a katana. He screams.
Wait,
He's been screaming for the last 10 minutes. Balthazar.
Mighty blow, mighty blow, mighty blow. Best monster in the series so far, asked by Little Jordo in the Discord.
Basilisk for me.
The basilisk that's like beneath Candlekeep, I guess.
Sure, or I think you can. There are a few other places you encounter them before you can encounter them in the Docks district, right? And after there are like a few scattered around the world. But I just like it feels like a monster that when you first encounter it, this is a puzzle, this is a challenge. It's very dangerous. You're afraid of it. I think it's one of the best monsters in the series.
I'm going to say that the best monster is that party of 10 bandits who all have bows and arrows that you can find as a level 1 adventurer.
As you're on your way to the Friendly Arm Inn.
Exactly.
And they just immediately insta-gib you.
Yes. Yeah.
You're alive just long enough to see 20 arrows converging on one point.
You've been waylaid by enemies. So yeah, that's it.
And it's around the N of enemies that the arrows hit you.
Here's another one from Modality from the Discord. Who was an NPC that you wish got more screen time or that left you wondering what they're out there doing?
Surely we have the same answer here.
I don't know. Hold on. Let me really give it a thinker here. I have a serious answer and I have a like the fan favorite. So I'll let you go ahead.
My serious answer is Saman Havarian.
That was my fan favorite answer. But tell me what.
I think he's genuinely the best villain in this entire series.
Oh, 1,000,000%. He's the best NPC. But here, this is the reason he's not my real answer. Is that the question says, who do you wish got more screen time? And I think that Saman Havarian got the exact right amount of screen time. You know what I mean? Like, he shows up, 3 times? And he's a huge fucking nuisance every time. And then he teleports away. And I'm glad they didn't go to that well too many times.
I don't know. There should have been more screen time because he's a way better final boss than Melisandre.
Yeah, I would have fought him one-on-one.
I would have won. I would have like buckled down and spent another 4 hours to kill him legitimately.
Yeah, me too. And that's we got a couple comments on the YouTube video that were saying like people were disappointed. One person seemed to intimate that we had ripped them off for providing them with this video series, which is very funny to me.
Cheated them. They were paying us through our personal PayPal. What was it, like $15 an episode?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We made this show at their request. That was an order. So.
And I get that, but as I expressed on YouTube as well, like, or in the comments, I think that the end of Throwing the Ball sucks. I think it is bad. And I think that there are probably a lot of reasons for that. I think there are financial constraints. I think there are design constraints. I don't blame anyone who was involved. I don't think anyone who worked on that thinks that is the best thing they've ever done in their life. Like, it feels like compromise. And part of the reason is that the final boss is this person who really we're introduced to as a serious player, an hour beforehand, right? When we find out that she's kind of like in league with the enemy, as it were. That she was the bad guy the whole time. So, like, there's no setup. With Saman Havarian, it's all set up.
Yeah.
Every minute is set up.
I think that would have been so narratively appropriate if you found out that Saman Havarian was actually the big bad, like the final ball spawn.
Yeah, and that's why he worked with Irenicus and did all that
Or
stuff.
even better, what if he's the physical manifestation of Cyric? What if Cyric was like, you know what? I need to come because this is the thing. AO is watching me and my divine powers, right? Like I'm on watch. We can't, as deities, we cannot intervene, right? So I am going to go back down to earth as a mortal to take care of this while I'm not on AO's radar.
Yeah, that would have been good.
And he's everything Cyric is, right? Saman Havarian is he's got all the parts of the portfolio.
He's duplicitous, he's stealthy, he's murderous. He's got a couple other parts of the portfolio too, but fear. I'm scared of Saman Havarian. I don't want him showing up.
No.
But yeah, I think that's right.
And my other NPCs that kind of left me wondering what they're out there doing. What about those cultists in that barn?
What about what do you think they're doing?
That's the thing. There's now a splinter group.
You think they founded their own religion since you killed their demons?
there's a part of them at least has founded a new cult about when they'll be released from the barn. It's kind of a doomsday cult.
Gosh, that's bad. That's a rough time.
Yeah, it's not the best, but doing what they can. I guess it's time we tackle the real questions here.
Well, I didn't say mine. It's those people over in the. I'm trying to look it up on the map, make sure I have the name right. But
so
in the Windspirit
Saman was your funny one. This is your real one.
Yeah, it's like the guy who's really supposed to have the Windspear Hills. Good lord, I never was able to do it. I still cannot say Windspear Hills.
Mm-hmm.
But you remember we had to clear out what's his face? Clear out that dragon so he could reclaim his or him and his daughter could reclaim their land.
Yeah,
that's who I wonder. I wish I got some payoff for them. See what they if they managed that.
Fair enough. Yeah,
that's my real answer. Yeah. So here's the most important one, probably. You've been waiting the whole time. You have been chomping at the bit, as it were.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So the question is, what Rutherford B. Hayes quote, and you can kind of adapt it as you will, best describes the Baldur's Gate experience?
Mm-hmm. All right, I've chosen mine. I had to go do a deep dive. I had to read 2 biographies on Rutherford B. Hayes to really find the appropriate quote. But I found mine. What is yours?
Mine.
Oh
is
wait,
from
who proposed this question? Really quick.
I think this is me.
Oh, you did this?
Yeah, this was me. Sorry,
okay.
I snuck it in here.
Uh-huh. All right.
Mine is a diary entry from February 27th of 1890. And it's
an entire diary entry?
Yeah.
Okay.
The progress of adventuring is, in its proper sense, the improvement of the condition of the muscle men of the world.
I don't even know what that means. What does that mean?
Let's just look. Muscle men. That's what adventuring's all about. Improving the condition of muscle men all around the world.
All right, this is another one. I don't have a. This is mine. I don't have
the source,
a provenance for it. Yeah. Nothing brings out the lower traits of human nature like office seeking.
That's the real Ticklevar.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which is why the only politician that Ticklevar will ever respect is Duke Belt. Duke Belt 2020.
Excellent. I think that there is one final question, though. Mm-hmm. And who is this from?
This is from me.
This is from you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Was it worth it?
That's the question.
That's it. That's the question. Was it worth it?
At this point, we have to say yes.
Mm-hmm. For all the friends we made along the way.
For all the friends we made along the way. A strange thing to do.
All those millions of dollars we made.
All the millions of dollars we made.
When I first sat down to record the first episode of Mages and Murderdads, and you were recording on your built-in laptop microphone, I never thought I'd be able to Scrooge McDuck my ass through just pounds and pounds of liquefied cash.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, I've been able to live out my dream of investing lots of USD into Bitcoin and then printing the Bitcoin IDs, the hash, onto tiny gems like you would find on the bottom of a fish tank, and then swimming through those small glass rocks. That's been the best. I never would have thought that would feel so good, but here we are, and it feels great, honestly.
I didn't get any of that. I was just in it for the murder.
Yeah, I get it. Just in it for the Gibbs, as it were.
Just in it to see goblin families disintegrate.
Oh gosh. Well, this is the end. This is the whole episode.
That was it.
That was it. This is we will never talk about Baldur's Gate again.
If I ever want to think about it, I'll just put on the show. I will not even expend mental energy.
That's the thing. We've joked about this before, and I think we've even said it in one of these wrap-up episodes, but quite literally, I will never play these games again.
It's over.
It's over. Like, I have exhausted all possible thinking that I could do about this because I have 43 hours of recorded footage of me talking about this video game series.
There's not another thought you could have.
There really isn't.
We ran out of thoughts around episode 15. It's just been us, like,
treading water.
Rearranging words.
But yeah, well, but we did it.
Yeah, it's over. It's here forever. Uploaded for posterity. You've got like several kind of redundant hard drives where the only thing on it is this buried around the country. Mm-hmm. So
I'm really into geocaching now. I've geocached the raw footage of me console commanding all these dragons.
The thing is, for some of our noble viewer listeners, they may be thinking, is this the end for me? Because I'm sure a lot of folks started watching the show, listening to the show because they love Baldur's Gate, and maybe they hate every other game that's like this. Mm-hmm. And to that, I tell you, have you considered just continuing to listen? Have you considered
starting over, just looping around episode 1?
Yeah.
We have plenty of other things for you to go check out.
Yeah.
We have other Let's Plays, and of course, we're going to keep making this. As we said before, we're going to go into Planescape Torment, and then after that, some other game.
If you love this to death, but you hate Planescape Torment, just stick around and keep watching, because, like, there's a chance we'll mention Balthazar or Ticklevar occasionally.
Yeah.
We might compare Planescape to this later.
I feel pretty confident that that Ticklevar will be a party member in Icewind Dale.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Some sort of alternate universe version. But yeah, well, this is it. If you go check us out on Facebook, go follow us on Twitter, come hang out in the Discord, and if you really like this massive series that we did, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get an additional podcast every month, which is pretty sweet, for $5.
It's a great deal. It's a really good deal.
It's a good deal. I think it's probably the best thing you can spend your money on.
Mm-hmm.
Oof. All right. Well, we'll be back in 2 weeks with the first episode of Planescape Torment.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Here's a question. Is it still Mages and Murderdads?
I think it is.
Yeah, I think it probably is too. All right. Goodbye.
Ciao.
So say